MovieWeb.com.
Now, is this movie really supposed to be about the transformation of this guy? Because it seems to me like the hotel is sort of the cocoon that he breaks from.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it truly is. It's kind of Mike's, Mike's thing. It is his transformation, and his transformation is, totally wrapped up in Sue. I mean, that's the thing that gets him out of there. And not that it's this rut. I mean, that was one concern that I had, was that he was that he would come off as this loser. And I really didn't find him, when I first read it, I really didn't feel that he was like that at all, like this kind of slacker guy. I saw a really good guy who was helping out his parents while his mom was dying of terminal cancer. It's like, that's a commendable, very manly thing to do. But I think that was more of a concern that I had, and also because this movie was unique in that there weren't these big things that transformed him. It wasn't like he saw battle and he was different, and it was this very slow progression that he goes through, and in this very absurd kind of crazy movie, but it very believable and very real. Both of them kind of been very moving at times, and I just thought that was so unique, and that it took its time, and it was slow, and it was, the message is just so simple, and it's almost ridiculous, but it's the age-old kind of question: how do you find love, and what does that mean? And it means you find yourself first, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, in the first part of the movie, you look like you're 10 years old, and I'm wondering, the fact that you have Fred Ward to play off of really kind of shrank you as a person, because you look like a little kid next to this guy, and I'm wondering, how do you think that helped your performance to work against someone like that sort of made you look not younger, but made you feel like you were Arrested Development?
He was the best. I mean, Fred Ward is amazing, and he has that heavy kind of stoic. I mean, that's him, man. That he's a man, And I knew that would just immediately help, And I mean, and they didn't do like some crazy, like all of a sudden he's wearing suits, kind of, it wasn't,
Oh no, I know. You mean your character in the movie?
Yeah.
It's just.
And he transforms too. I really loved the script because I thought every character in the movie was interesting. Everyone had and that's just Steve Belber, the writer and director. He's just a brilliant writer. And you sympathize with all of them. And they all had, and I thought, my God, you're going to get a lot of good people in this movie just because, I know you are, because every one of these characters is really defined. And, I mean, you go to movies and the leads aren't defined. And that's why.
I was going to say, even with Woody Harrelson as a pretty defined character. And
a lot of his stuff was cut, and it's great stuff. But Steve said it was cut because it just didn't work tonally at that point of the movie, and they tried to. Yeah, there's a scene where in between the dinner and when I go over there, he's like, well, let me go out and show you the dogs, I'll give you a demo, and then the dogs attack me and I'm in a suit, and it's great. And he's like, just like totally, he's so funny. But even with that stuff gone, there's this, he's this, and he's the most absurd part of the movie. I mean, it's just crazy, it takes this crazy turn. That was another thing I thought was so interesting. It's like, there's this like kitchen sink drama at the same time. There's like Woody, this like yogurt, like CEO of a yogurt company.
Well, I don't know any punk rockers that like yogurt, which I thought was the weird thing. I mean, maybe there's some out there, but
well, it was just so funny. It didn't matter. It's like ex-punk. Like he's punk here still in the heart, but now he's a grown man, a businessman. Like it was just so funny.
Well, I read that he had studied Flea or had talked to Flea about this character. Is he playing Flea in the movie?
Oh no one's. I don't think he's playing any specific person.
Okay, because I read that in like the notes they hand out, before you see the movie.
I have no
and then
idea. No,
I saw a little bit of nuance of Flea in there, but I didn't think Flea would be that crazy.
No, I don't.
Now, do you and Jennifer Aniston have worked together in the past? Was that easier to come in and sort of create these two characters with her, having known her, or do you think it made it a little too easy? Or?
No, it was, well, we'd worked together, but it was like I did, 4 days work on Friends. I did one episode. So I met them, you know what I mean? But the thing about Jennifer is, after that, 4 days on that show, which is like being invited to someone's like family reunion. I mean, to go to that show, they're all like best buddies and they're really cool, but to do that, it was frightening, as an actor going, how do I slip into this? But like, 2 years later, I'd see her or see someone she knew that I knew and be like, hey, say hi to Jennifer. It was just, she's that kind of person. She'll remember the conversation you had like 5 years ago. It's like, it's incredible. And then we did a movie called Object of My Affection, right? We had like one scene together, but we, hung out for 2 weeks, and Paul Rudd was in it, and we just, it was this little movie in New York. And so I got to know her a little bit more from that, but we never worked together or any kind of, so this was, I was nervous like I am for every movie to go in and kind of like hope I'm up to everybody's standards, and, you really kind of, we're all like insecure people.
Can I ask you about that? Because I don't get a chance to ask too many actors about that. The nervousness that goes into when, like, your first day on set. I mean, is it like getting up in front of a class and doing a speech for the first time?
It totally is.
And you're never.
That's why actors hate rehearsing. Because it's revealed. You have to reveal your kind of trick, and you're not prepared really. And I think rehearsal is essential in film and theater and everything. And yet in film you rarely have rehearsal, or you have a day and everybody goes out to dinner and I have dogs too. Oh, this is going to be great, But this, we had a week of Jen and I and Steve Belber sat in a room like this all day, and we got off book, we read, we talked, and we rehearsed it like a play. And that alone, like 10 minutes, I was nervous. I'm not. Hey, if I'm the lead of a romantic comedy, it's going to be different. But I still the lead of a romantic comedy. I was like, man, it's just like, how would I do this? Like, am I gonna? Even though the character I felt very in tune with, I wasn't like the knight coming in to save the princess, which I would be really scared about, because I'd be completely out of people's perception. Like, what? Zahn's the knight? No.
I would buy it.
Yeah, man.
I think a lot of people would. But we really 10 minutes into it, and if you asked her, it was the same. Like that day, we just kind of high five. I was like, "This is gonna work. This is totally." And she's like, it's gonna work. We just were reading, and it was just, and I can't explain that, but sometimes it just works. And we were so confident with that kind of like uneasy, kind of weird relationship. It just kind of happened, and we had so much fun, and even the day before we started shooting, the producer came in and was like, "Hey, we're gonna because of weather, we're gonna have to shoot the last scene of the day, the last scene of the movie, which is scheduled at the end, like in 2 days. Is that cool with you?" Any other movie, we'd be like, "Absolutely not, no way. You have to give us a week at least." And I remember we just looked at each other and we're like, "Yeah, that's cool," because we just felt that kind of confident about it, And most of the time in that situation is very kind of uneasy, because you have to kind of really feel each other out, I mean, you're playing two people that are falling in love, or and it's so intimate, and so, everybody experiences that, and so everybody is aware of it, and they can see if it's real or not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It's hard. It's a very...
It's cool to hear that from you, because I don't hear that.
Well, and some people, everybody's nervous, everybody's insecure.
Yeah.
It just comes out in different ways. Like I just over rehearse in my house before I show up to work, so I'm ready and prepared, and this is what I'm going to do. And that's my defense against, like, I'd be loud and tell jokes and get everybody distracted from what I'm doing. That's what I do. Other people will, come 2 hours late and make it, be like, yeah, fuck this, I'm just going to read it. But that's their defense. That's them being a little kid. it's not that they're an asshole. It's just that they're just insecure about it, and they have to find it. And everybody's got their different thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I also want to, on that same note, I want to talk about, you mentioned the weather. I'm not sure if you actually shot this in Aberdeen and Arizona. Did you shoot in those two locations?
We shot in Portland.
Okay.
And around Portland, and not far from Aberdeen and all that, but then the Arizona stuff was in Madras, Oregon, which is high desert.
Oh yeah, I know that.
You know.
Well, I was just wondering because the sky in the movie seems gray almost through the entire thing, and it's never a sunny movie. I'm wondering, how did that sort of atmosphere weigh on your own sort of psyche when you were trying to get into this guy? Because it seems almost like there's a depression looming over these guys at the beginning of the movie that comes from the atmosphere of the film.
I don't know. I don't know if it had any effect or not.
Would you think it has an effect on the film? Like the look of the film when you see it?
Sure. I mean, it's like that stuff up in when she's in Aberdeen, and it's always wet and kind of cold, and
Well, because it just put me in a different mind.
But then he's in Arizona. It's like this dry kind of high desert, bright and sunny, and that's where his mom's dying and everything. It's like.
But it's kind of empty there too, isn't it?
It's vast empty. Yeah. It's kind of just mundane, and he has his routine. He goes from the motel to the yoga to the same Chinese restaurant every day. It's the same suit. You know what I mean? It's like, he throws in some piano lessons, and he really does try to
spice up his day with
do yoga.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
It's piano lessons.
Funny now, did you when you first looked at this film, in the second half of it, did you kind of see it as you were looking at a teen film through the eyes of an adult? Because this guy does some kind of outrageous things that most adults are too lost to even try to do.
That's what I thought was so interesting about the script, and when I said earlier, there's so many different tones in this movie. When I first read it, I was like, what? It's this absurd slapstick comedy with this kitchen sink drama, the scenes with Fred Ward, these really understated, heavy scenes, and then there's I thought, how is this all going to work out? This is crazy. And when I saw it, I was so... By that time in the movie, you kind of believe Mike. You don't question his tenacity or his assertive kind of I'm going to go. And it's not like I'm going to win the girl. It's almost like he just wants to be in the same town, and also he makes friends and he gets a job, and that's good enough, and it doesn't happen. I've got a job, and yet I'm 1,000 miles from where I live, but I'll live here for a while. He's kind of content. He lives in the next 5 minutes, and you kind of, but at that point when he's parachuting into pools and stuff, you kind of understand his thing, which is hard to understand.
Well, I'm almost out of time, and I want to ask you, I just read an interview, I think it was on Ain't It Cool News, with you and the guy, and you guys were talking about your past films, and I thought it was interesting. You were talking about the films that people come up to you and talk to you about, and I'm wondering, you never mentioned Suburbia, and this movie's not on DVD. What happened to that film?
Yeah, why is that not on DVD?
Because it's Richard Linklater directed that, and I would think that, and it was a great movie.
I think it's a great movie. That's one of my favorite. I mean, I love that. That whole thing was. I did the play in New York. I did the workshop with Eric in Boston in 1990. I did the full.
So you have no idea why that never? Because I don't even see it on video hardly. You can't buy it.
And that's one of those movies though that people, hey man, Suburbia. It depends on where I'm hanging or who you're with, but that's another one that pops up.
Yeah, well, it's weird.
And then people are proud of it. You know what I mean? It's like, I love you in Suburbia, right? I'm an insider into the, and they are. Because that is a cool movie.
Well, it always sticks out in my head because I always get really hungry when I'm drinking. And your character had that same thing where he was like, I get so hungry when I'm drunk. And I'm like, I can identify with that. Because I don't remember how old I was when I saw that, but it must have been right when I was in college. And I was
energy beyond belief. Buff was his
So you
name.
have no insight into the mystery of the disappearing film.
No, I don't. That is a good question. No, I should find out about that.
I think I'm gonna go to sleep.
Do you want me to touch your butt first?
I'm gonna do that when I'm traveling.